And I think like I skied like 7 kilometers in the morning. And then I saw, so South Pole has a few like buildings over there. They have a research center. They have a huge telescope. 11 kilometers away, I saw those buildings, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I think I hit it down then. It's like when you know that your destination is only like a day away, you want to like push it and get it done. But when I actually saw the buildings, I was like, I'm gonna miss this lifestyle I've had for like last 50 days, right? As much as I miss people, like, I miss my nephews, I miss my family, I miss like good food. I think randomly in the middle of like nowhere, I missed like a good scotch. I wish I had like a good scotch. um, you know, as much as I wanted to like experience all that, I also felt like I was going to miss the lifestyle I had the last 50 days. I was at peace. I was having the best time. I mean, it was some days it was hard. Some days it was like extremely cold. Had to be extremely careful. Everything was cold. Everything hurt. But that's when I like think when it hit me that I'll probably be able to do this in the next 3 hours. I just like stopped. I started eating all my like favorite snacks. I took out my like a satellite and its communication device, and I reached out to my trainer who trained me in Baffin Island. I reached out to my guide in Greenland, and I reached out to my mentor in Norway. I sent them a message saying that I'm 11 kilometers away. I could see the South Pole. It's a beautiful day, no wind whatsoever. I'm gonna make the South Pole in like 3 hours, and I just I said, I'm really thankful for everything that you guys have done. All that. Like you get really sentimental.
Yeah.
And this is just a happy moment. Like when you know that you can get there anytime you want to.
Yes.
But then also feel like you're part of the expedition still.
I want to soak it in a little more.
Yeah. So just like sat there and like had all my favorite snacks. It was pretty good. Yeah.
So what would you do after summiting peaks like the Everest, Lhotse, Annapurna? Well, if you're someone like my guest in this episode today, you'd strap on your skis, load your sled, and head alone to the South Pole. No guide, no help, no backup, just 51 days of ice, wind, lots of memories, and maybe some talking to the sled and the harness. Welcome to this very adventurous episode at Misadventures of a Sneaker. I'm your host, Revati. So, today, my guest is not just a record-breaking mountaineer, he is the first Indian to ski solo, unguided and unassisted to the South Pole. Meet Satish Gogineni, an adventurer who has several firsts against his name. He's also, by the way, the fastest Indian to summit Mount Everest and Lhotse, something that not many in this world have managed. He shares with us stories of his expedition, what kept him going, what kept him pursuing one challenge after another. I love the way Satish spoke about South Pole and the endless white landscapes, the snowstorms, and the overall skiing experience itself. In fact, he made the whole expedition seem so doable that even at the end of something like this, I got some FOMO. The episode is full of grit, wonder, and icy fun. But I also want to give a trigger warning to my listeners here. In this episode, my conversation with Satish has been free-flowing and also includes mentions of mental health issues that both he and his family have faced. The episode has mentions of suicide and depression. So I suggest that you, my gentle listener, is mindful of your own mental health and you take breaks if needed. I have also listed some links in the show notes for support and resources. Please take care of yourself and never hesitate to ask for help if you need it. This is also what Satish wishes to tell the world through his cause, Project Ratan Spandana. All right, let's take a deep breath. And before we dive in, let's take a quick little break. Hey, do you know we've recently launched a travel journal? A journal that is perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking little memorabilia. Pick one for yourself or gift it to a friend or to a kid. It'll be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find the link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and thank you. All right, now let's step into the white silence, endless snow, and the incredible mind of a man who has skied solo to the South Pole. We usually dive in. Today we are going to ski in. Hi, Satish. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, Revati, doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you, on my podcast. We call Misadventures of a Sneaker. And, I heard your story before you went on the expedition, which is sometime in October, I guess, last year, 2024. And it blew me away. I mean, this is crazy amount of determination, discipline, achievement itself. And you've done a bunch of things even before what we are going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about today is about your skiing expedition in South Pole. My goodness, at least I have only seen this in photographs, and then to see that you're doing the whole trip solo, unassisted is crazy, crazy. I mean, something that is very, very tough to do, and you came back successfully completing it as the first Indian to have ever done it. Massive pride, of course, but wow, it's crazy good. And I'm very happy to be talking to you about your story and how you did it and your entire trip to the whole place and your preparation and what went through your head and so many more things. But before all that, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to share my story.
I really look forward to it. But before that, Satish, tell me, how did it feel when you reached the South Pole? You're the first Indian to be there in such an unassisted expedition. What were you like super thrilled about?
Um, to be honest with you, I think I was excited about how well. So okay, so I just have to like say this in advance, so that way I don't come across as pompous. I'm not a person who tries to hype myself, or I'm not a social media guy in general. But then I think the first impression, or the first reaction was that that wasn't bad, was what I thought. Yeah, it's weird. For many, it's a dream come true to like ski, like 1133 kilometers. For some it's like very enduring, for some it's very challenging. It was all of that for me too, but then I think when I got done, I was like, I could do more, was the first reaction in my head.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think it kind of resonates with the reaction that I had after climbing Everest and Lhotse too. I think I have it in on some few of the podcasts where I talked about like how I thought I had more energy after like climbing Everest and let's say in a day. And I think that's what challenged me to go back and climb a mountain like Annapurna, which is a very challenging mountain. So I think I had a similar reaction. I think, yeah. To answer your question, just straightforward, I thought I could do more. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
I
And
cannot believe it.
yeah, and when I met the staff at the South Pole station,
Uh-huh.
as part of the ALE group, they've also said the same thing. Dude, you don't look like anybody who has skied 51 days. You don't have any frostbite on your face or any such. You look pretty happy and healthy. So it's like, I think that's pretty much, that probably was the biggest takeaway for me, that I could do more on Antarctica.
Wow. I cannot even imagine. And then, yeah, this is what I was telling when I was saying that you've done a bunch of things in advance as well, where you spoke about your Everest and Lhotse experiences and Annapurna. So Everest and Lhotse as well, you did it kind of back to back, right? What was that?
Yeah, no. Back when I was attempting it, no Indian has ever done it before. So when I was like trying to like train for it, in my mind, I knew that I wanted to climb. I mean, I've never climbed an 8,000 meter, and then my first 8,000 meter was going to be Everest. But then it was not. I mean, I wouldn't say it was not calculated. I was very calculated, and I took it step by step. I've consulted a lot of people, explained to them my expertise before I attempted Everest. So when I say Everest was my first 8,000 meter mountain, it's not. I mean, I've been mountaineering for almost like a decade before I got there. Yeah, so when I was trying to attempt it, I was inspired by a lady called Rebecca Ferry. She's an endurance runner, mountaineer from UK. Something she said resonated with me very deeply. And then so she did Everest and Lhotse under 24 hours. And so it kind of stuck with me that I should attempt it at least. Yeah. So when I was going for Everest, I also wanted to like combine that with Lhotse. I took from Everest summit to Lhotse summit, it took like 19 hours for me, summit to summit. At that point, it was the fastest Indian time. I think it still is the fastest Indian time, but yeah.
Wow, you have a bunch of fastest Indian, only Indian, first Indian kind of thing. With Everest, Lhotse, and the South Pole, or you have more as well?
I mean, I think you can say that about Dhaulagiri. From Kathmandu to Kathmandu, I think I did like maybe 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 8,000. Yeah, it's I think it's the world's sixth tallest mountain or the seventh tallest mountain.
So you've had like a bunch of such achievements, right? Which of it has been, or which of it is one of the most special ones for you? Though I think I know the answer to this one, but still tell me.
I think I think I would say the South Pole expedition.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of all the logistics that were involved with it, and me being the first Indian.
Yeah.
I take it as a pride too, as like like to hoist the flag, Indian flag, and then to also like represent India as like we haven't had anybody who skied the distance solo or done like to the South Pole. So I take a lot of immense pride in the fact that I was the first Indian to reach South Pole. It's hard, like I also say that because of certain certain incidents that happened before I started skiing.
Mm-hmm.
So it remained as a monkey on my back the whole time on the trip. I had to make sure that I execute the expedition as safely and successful as
Yeah.
possible. That way, they don't question again an Indian if he's ever going to be ready to like do something like the way I did it. Because I started skiing. I used to ski downhill back in 2008, 2009, but then I
Mm-hmm.
haven't worn a ski since then until like Feb 28th of last year.
That's a good almost 15
Yeah,
years.
and it's different, right? I was doing downhill skiing before, and this was cross
Mm-hmm.
country. So it was the first time I ever wore a cross country ski was on Feb 28th of 2024. So in 7 months, I was able to go from like just wearing my cross country ski for the first time to reach the South Pole. I don't think anyone ever has done anything close even.
And I call it insane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there were a lot of people questioning if I was even ready for this
Mm-hmm.
expedition. I took it as an, I took it as a
Challenge.
as a challenge, and yeah, I would say so. So for that reason, right? I mean, when you say that you have been on big mountains like Everest, Lhotse, Annapurna, just because of the negativity that has been surrounding mountaineering these days, people don't I think people always. So these are people who have never even been on those mountains, right? They say, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you had a Sherpa with you." Like that's the first thing that comes to the mind. It's like, "Oh, you had a guide or a Sherpa along with you,
Yeah, yeah,
so he was
yeah.
carrying all your weight, right? So you were just going behind him." Like it
Right.
almost like they try to zero out your achievement, right?
Yes, that's
And
true.
these are people who haven't even
You're
like climbed a 6,000 meter mountain, 7,000 meter mountain. And I had this consistently from the very day I was training. I was training in Baffin Island when a guy said, "Oh, you must have done all those things, but I don't think it's impossible for you to be at the South Pole in 7 months." He said that, right? And it kind of stuck to my head. And then right before I was going to go to the South Pole expedition, when I was actually in Antarctica, somebody said, "Of all the expeditioners, you're the least prepared."
why would people say such
Yeah, and
things?
I mean, he didn't mean it. I think he was mad at somebody else
Mm.
and he didn't know how to express it on him. So he showed it on
Mm-hmm.
me. But I mean, I think he meant it, but then, yeah, he didn't want to say it, but then it came across. Yeah. Anyways, so he said that. So
Yeah.
for me, I had to prove. I mean, I thought like there was something for me to prove, and so when I reached the South Pole, it was the biggest. I mean, that was I would say like one of my biggest achievements, to be able to do for 51 days, able to carry 126 kilo across, and climb all the way to like close to 10,000 feet. And the way I did it, like no major injuries or no major
Mm-hmm.
issues. I take a
Mm-hmm.
lot of pride in that.
Rightfully so, I'd say.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. So I was reading a lot about, the South Pole expeditions and people going for it and all of it. And the categories that people usually get themselves, first person to do it kind of thing are either you're unguided, unsupported, or unassisted.
Yeah.
So guided is where you actually have a guide who is taking you on the entire expedition. Supported versus unsupported is where you are supported by, say, mid-journey equipment resupplying or something of that sort. And assistance is where you have a motorized, say you're carrying a motorized vehicle to help you with your speed or help you with carrying any of your load and all of that.
Yeah.
What was yours in this?
Yeah. So they were, I think I would say they're classified as solo or guided, or you could say unsupported or supported, unassisted or unassisted. The assisted could also be because some people use kites.
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
So that comes under assistance. And unsupported, could be some are doing like crazy long expeditions. There was a Korean lady this year who started from where I started, but then ended up on the other end of the coast. So she went from Hercules Inlet and ended up, I believe, on the Ross Ice Shelf.
Which is near New Zealand, right?
Yes.
That's the part of the South Pole there.
Yes. So she skied another extra 700 kilometers, I believe, after South Pole. So she had a drop at South Pole. So she took, so she came with the load until South Pole. And then at South Pole, she reloaded and then went to the coast.
Got it.
Amazing. So, so that's how assistance comes into play. Support is, could be in terms of like somebody lost direction and then, the company guides you how to get back to South Pole. Or it could also be because, you estimated that you're going to take like 40 days. So you only carried food for 40 days. And then so you're falling short of food or resources. So they'll come by and drop something off for you. Or it could also be that like, you broke your ski or you broke your, shoes or something like that. And they come drop you off so you can continue your journey. Yeah. Okay. So that's just how it's classified. I come across as solo, unsupported, and unassisted.
Oh, okay. I genuinely want to know. So I have read, several of the interviews that people have taken with you and heard your story and all that.
Yeah.
So you're literally in the last frontier of the world when you are heading to South Pole, and you're dragging what 126 kgs is what you said. Now, so I have a lot of questions about how this idea came to you. What's the prep that you did? Packing, funding, stories about the expedition itself, all of it. But before we go on that route, I want to know a little bit more, of your story, a little bit more about you. Tell me, how did your love for trekking and skiing and, in fact, all the outdoors, love for all the outdoors start for you? Usually, one of our earliest travel experiences would be ones that we go on with our families or, with our close friends in school or college. What was it for you? What was your scene? How did this love for outdoors and such active travel and adventures and all come around?
It's, I think, the words like, trekking and hiking are all like fancy words that we've learned in the last 20, 25 years, I would say.
Correct. I agree. Yeah.
I think I would call it more of like an exploring, I would say. Me and my brother we spent a lot of time at my grandparents' place. So they live in the outskirts of Hyderabad and they had a poultry farm, a huge poultry farm over there. And back in the day, that area was like pretty isolated, I would say. So my grandparents would be like taking care of the farm, but then me and my brother would just leave in the morning and like just explore. We would climb everything that's there, like trees and rocks and everything out there. We would like just hang out outside for like 4 or 5 hours. I would say like, that's where just being outside and we both enjoyed it. Like, we both, even my brother too, is very active. We played a lot of sports growing up. So I think I would say like in terms of like exploring, that was where, we used to like go outside and not worry about like the elements. We used to hold lizards, snakes, everything, like, just play around with them growing up, actually. So I think in that sense, I think I would call it more of an exploration at that point. My earliest memory of a hike, I would say, is there's a temple outside, Stravana Belagala. Is it?
Shravana Bedapula, that's a Jain temple.
Yeah. So I think I've been there twice, and I feel like both the times I was just like crushed those stairs. Just growing up, right? I mean, I would like my brother and my parents would like be way below. I probably did a rotation up and down like a couple of times. I think I was in my sixth grade. I think the first time I did was my sixth grade, and I think after that was sometime around like eighth grade or so. So I think
Okay.
I've had like good memories of those. Like, I've always felt like I kind of had that. But then again, like, I never really explored anything outside of it. I got into running when I moved to the States. I never used to run before. I could never do a push up before. Fitness was never like, I don't think I've ever been in the gym before I moved to the States, right? And I moved to the States in 2004. And I think when I moved to the school, I started like playing soccer. And when I started playing soccer with the Americans and the Europeans, like, whoever was in school, that's when I realized, like, how bad my endurance was. And so just to like work on the soccer, I used to like run around. I started like running like 1 mile, 2 mile, and it ended up being like 3 to 4 miles very regularly. And then I think after graduation, I moved to DC. I met a dude who just ran the marathon. I'm talking about like 2006, 7. That time, marathon was very rare event, and the people were doing it because they want a challenge and not for the gram, as many do today. Yeah. So
That's
I
true.
think,
That's true.
yeah, I think I would call those guys the OGs, right? Yeah. So I think I got influenced by him. He wrote his experience after his marathon, and he talked extensively about hitting the wall and then just suffering through the pain and everything else the last 8, 9 miles. And I think that just got curious. It didn't appear real because I was like, how can you hit a wall? Like, I just want to experience hitting that wall. I think that's what got me curious about like just running the distance. So that's how I got into running. Moved to LA soon after that. I started training with a company. Ran my first marathon. I was peer pressured by my boss at that point to continue running with her after my first marathon. So she took me along wherever she went, and then I ran 14 marathons before I started hiking.
My
Yeah.
God.
So I started hiking in 2013. My first ever hike, like a really good friend of mine, he called me and said, "I have the passes for this beautiful hike up in the Sierras in California." He said, "You'll have fun." He said, "I'll bring some whiskey. We can like hike up halfway. We can have fun, and then like just hike around."
Sounds good. Sounds like a party.
Yeah, that's where I went. I took a lot of short bottles of Jack Daniels. I remember that. I think I like, yeah, and I think I took like 30 of them, I believe, at that point. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a long night. But then I think like halfway up the mountain, I've never been at altitude before then, right? And I didn't even ask him like, where are we going? What are we doing? Because he was not that active and I was more active. And for me, it was like, if you can do it, I can definitely do it. That was
Yeah.
the attitude at that point. I think when we went halfway, when we were feeling the effects of altitude, we never dared to touch alcohol. We barely survived the night. I think. I think along those lines, that was my first experience. Just hiking, I would say. And in the process, we climbed the tallest peak in the lower 48 states, which is Mount Whitney, right? And mountain climbing is never easy, or it's not something that's very enjoyable. Obviously, when you look around, it's beautiful. Like scenery is beautiful. You enjoy the solitude. You get to process a lot of your feelings, unresolved feelings that you have, right? But then altitude, it was tiring us down. It was playing tricks on our head. We were hallucinating things. So a lot went into it. And I don't know at that point what it was that pushed us to the summit, because there were people who were returning back and then said, you should turn back right now. But we didn't listen to them and we still pushed to the summit. I don't know what drove us to the summit. I guess like me and my friend just didn't want to quit, I think.
Yeah.
But we've never been mountaineering and it wasn't a good idea to be on that mountain that late, but we still did. And I think at the end of the day, the achievement that we
Yeah.
completed something we
Of course.
started
Yeah.
and then came back down safe. And then that's when I realized that it was the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. It just brought a lot of like satisfaction, maybe, or like,
Of
like a
course.
feeling of like I've achieved something, right? Yeah, I mean, that's just stuck in my head.
And that's what, 10 years back?
That was 2013. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, look at that.
yeah.
Would the Satish have then ever thought that you would have done Everest, Lhotse, Annapurna, now this South Pole, all of these?
I don't think so. Yeah.
No.
Because I remember that we couldn't sleep the night before because we were hallucinating. We thought there was a bear outside the tent. And we hiked almost the entire day next day. By the time I went back home, it was like 2 o'clock in the night. And but I was like it was in such a high that I remember like laying in my bed and on YouTube I was like looking how to climb Everest. I didn't even know how tall Everest was, right? I just knew that I just climbed the tallest peak in the lower 48. And I was thinking that Everest might be like, a few inches, a few inches
Higher than
taller.
that.
Yeah. Only to realize that Everest was just double the size of that mountain
Double.
that we just climbed. Yeah, and I just read about the death zone on Everest. I think like watched the video for 30 minutes, and I said, you know what, that was good. Let's just hold on to that memory. Yeah, and I never expected. I thought that was the end of my mountaineering journey because my friend didn't want to continue after that, and I didn't have anybody else who could take me on those expeditions. Running also too, right? I mean, I would say I probably would have quit after my first marathon because I want to run the marathon and experience that hitting the wall. If it wasn't of the insistence of my boss and then the peer pressure, she insisted that I run with her every Saturday. She runs at the 6 o'clock in the morning, so she insisted that I join her
Wow.
team. Yeah.
Good social circle, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very grateful for that friendship, which led me to many amazing moments after that. If it wasn't for her insistence, I wouldn't have experienced a lot of things. I think people define me as runner, traveler, mountaineer, and now they keep calling me explorer, right? I wouldn't have done any of these if it wasn't for her, or her insistence that I run with her. So yeah,
Wow.
very grateful for that journey.
You should give a shout out to her.
Yeah, her name is Debbie Slevin. She's a complete beast.
Debbie, all thanks to you. You would have never even thought of it once upon a time. So, why I asked you this question of what's your earliest memories? I had spoken to a hiker. This guy is on a kind of mission to do all the national parks in the US. He is at, I think, at the 38, 39 right now, maybe even 40. His name is Harsha Dandibhatla. He lives in New York. And he said that, since you're asking me this question, I'm digging through my memories. And I think when I was growing up, my parents were kinds who used to go to Tirupati every single year. Tirupati is the temple that you go to. And as a family, we used to always walk up. And we used to call it walking up, but actually it's like a hiking up kind of thing. And we used to have such a great time doing it because it was always a family affair. So it was all cousins together. And, we used to build up an entire scene while going up. And then, those days, this is like 20, 25 years back, you'll have, some wildlife around and things like that. It used to be such a great time. And I used to look forward to, going up to Tirupati. And probably there is where my love for climbing or hiking came around. And I really liked how it started off from there, from Tirupati, and you would never even think of that. Similarly, there was another guy who said that, his family used to go to Vaishno Devi, which is another temple up a mountain every single year. Yeah. And how it used to be fun, and you'll have those ponies coming, and then he tries to make up a full scene, that this is an entire kingdom and a king going with all his followers behind him. And I used to enjoy that so much. And that's probably from where I like storytelling while I go on hikes. I don't listen to music while going up. I always build stories like this. And that's the reason why I asked you. And you went on an entire different stories of catching snakes and lizards and all that.
No, I think it was just curiosity for me. I think
I like it.
Yeah, we just, me and my brother had all the time. We would have a breakfast. And then my grandparents were pretty secure as to and both of us. My brother's 2 years younger than me, but we're the same height. I think now he's like 2 inches taller than me. I'm 6'3.5", right? And so we would just have no fear of anything. We would just go anywhere. We would see like a mountain, and then we wanted to just go to the very top of that, yeah. So I think that just continued, yeah.
Fun days, man. Fun days where you don't think so much about what's outside, people around, and all of those things.
I know. I wish you can go back.
Yeah. Same. Really same.
Yes.
So, what came into your head to do this South Pole thing? Okay, Everest and Lhotse are things that people have heard about. You want to achieve it, you do it. Okay, when I'm saying people have heard about, I'm saying the people have heard about the peaks. It's just like how you finished your first and you went and immediately went on YouTube to say, hey, I want to do Everest. So one by one, why did you start planning each of this? How did you go about the thought process in your head?
So I think South Pole, I've never had any doubt that the only way I want to do it was to do solo and unsupported, which also meant I need to carry a sled with all my supplies in it. And I knew at that point it would take me 50 days to do this expedition. So my earliest introduction to like dragging anything was my climb up Denali. So Denali is the tallest peak in the US, located in Alaska. It requires about 21 days of a climb. And so you also have to like take all your supplies along with you.
Okay.
So, and it would be like close to like 60 kilo with the tent, your food and everything else. So we would like carry like about 20 in the backpack, and then we would carry another 40 kilo in a sled behind. So having done the sled up Denali, I didn't really enjoy that experience, like of a sled and having to drag a sled up a mountain, or even down even downhill, because it would just keep crashing on my legs the whole time. And on Denali, the last day is I forgot what we call. I think we call it Road to Hell or something like that, because you're going from the high camp all the way down to the base camp, which takes about 11, 12, 13 hours. Oh, it's called Death March, actually. It's called the
Okay.
Death March.
What a word they have coined, my God.
Yeah, it's it's like it's just never ending. Like, you just we would take like almost 7 days to go to high camp, but then coming back down, you have to do it all in like 10, 11 hours. And just when I look back at it, right, it was we had to rush it because if we miss that window, we had to wait for 3 more days on the mountain because it was bad weather. So we almost set up the tent. We have to unpack everything and had to come back down to the base camp. And we didn't plan properly, and then we had like limited amount of water. And it was like one of my painful journeys I've ever had. My whole lips were like so dried up, and I was like scraping ice like from a bottle, shaking it, gonna get a small sip of water. Anyways, I mean, the sled was like
Gosh.
coming back and like hitting my leg the whole time, and so I didn't really enjoy that process, right? So yeah, so that's a memory that remained in my head. And even after Denali, when I decided I was going to train for Everest, my trainer would ask me to drag a tire. Because I think the dragging the tire started as a training for Denali. But then when I came back, I told her how much I hated like dragging that sled. So I think to challenge me more mentally, I think it's a great way of training anybody. When someone asks you like, how do you build the mental fortitude, right? I mean, that's how you do it. You do things that you don't enjoy, but are also like very hard, right? So so she would always like, often like throw that like dragging the tire into my exercise routine. Every time I felt like I was crushing an exercise, she would like rub something off and like throw like, you're gonna drag tire around the park or something like that.
Yeah, from crushing there, you are actually crashing here. It's almost that
Yeah.
way. Oh God.
So, that's something that I always hated. So I think right before I was going to go for Everest, one of my own prerequisite to myself was I wanted to climb Aconcagua, which is the tallest peak in the South America or anywhere outside of Himalayas, right? It's about 7,000 meters. I wanted to climb that mountain solo and unsupported. And I said, if I can climb this mountain solo and unsupported, I would think myself qualified to go climb Everest, right? Because I didn't want to be a liability to anybody up on Everest. Because I saw a lot of these videos and documentaries, and I don't want to be somebody who's been dragged up the mountain or pulled up the mountain and such. So I went to Aconcagua. I climbed Aconcagua solo. It took me 10 days to go up and down the mountain. And I come back to the nearest town, which is Mendoza. It was Jan 24th. And I was enjoying like a nice sip of like a cold beer. And then I was like flipping through my Instagram. And I think that's when I noticed an army officer by name Preet Chandi. She's a British officer. She's a British Army officer who was the first person of color or maybe woman.
I think both, if I'm not mistaken, woman and person.
Yeah, I thought I would be the first male at that point, but then someone reminded me that there was somebody who's like half North African or something like that. So I think he qualifies somehow as the first person of color.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah, I know, but I think when Preet went, she called it as the first person of color. Um, so I mean, I was pretty impressed because when I was reading through the details of how much she carried, it was 100 kilo, and then someone who looked like me was able to spend 50 days on Antarctica doing something solo. right? At that point, it was for me, it was like, this is amazing. Like, I was very proud of her. And I just followed her, right? Because my focus was all about like, how do I climb Everest and Lhotse in 24 hours? Like, so my training was all focused on that aspect of
So
it.
the South Pole never even crossed your mind so far. Hasn't even come into your.
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was something that I know I read about, and I knew that
Yeah.
somebody of my skin color could, like, do it. That was all it was, right? And she was also like a British
Yeah.
army
She's called
officer.
the Polar Preet.
Yes, yes. So for me, I'm like, I'm not an army officer. I don't train like, because
Yeah.
they go through
Yeah.
the drills and everything else, right? So they have to stay fit and
Intense.
yeah. And for me, I mean, I have an 8 to 5 job. I mean, I do these things after, I train for these after my job, right? So it just was a thought that remained. I was proud of, someone from the Indian heritage to be able to be like doing that. And I thought it was very inspiring. Yeah. When I came back from Everest and Lhotse, a few incidents happened, and then I wanted to like train for bigger mountains again, harder mountains, and I was choosing to go to Annapurna. So when I was training for Annapurna, I would do the same thing again. I would be like dragging the tires, right? So every time I would put myself in the harness to like drag that tire, I would feel like I was in the shoes of Polar Preet, and I was like dragging that tire in the snow. So I think every single time, that's how I imagined it to be, because my tire was pretty heavy. I mean, so tire, it just varies, right? I mean, it all depends upon the surface you're dragging it on. If it's if it's a concrete, it acts one way. If it's on a snow, it acts one way. If it's on a sand, it acts one way. That tire was the hardest thing that I've ever dragged. So I always wondered, like, how was pre-processing this? Because I was only doing like, I think 4 into 400, something like that, and it took me forever. And she did like 1133 kilometers, right? So for me, I didn't know what it would take to like do what she did. So that curiosity always remained.
Wow.
Yeah. The last day of my training for Annapurna, I just dragged the tire and I come inside the gym. And my trainer, Connie, she asked me, so, I had a few mountains that I wanted to climb that year. So she said, what's after Annapurna? And I don't know, I didn't really think about it. The first thing that I blurted was South Pole solo and unassisted, unsupported. And she asked me how many kilometers is that? I said like over 1,000 kilometers. She just cracked. I mean, knowing somebody who knows, I think nobody knew how much I hated dragging that tire more than she did, right? She just nodded. She just shook her head. I don't think she believed it. And for me, I just said that, right? I didn't think much about it, and I just walked away from it. I went to climb Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, whatever I wanted to climb. And when I came back, I wanted to I wanted to take a break from mountains, just so I can go back to it when I'm feeling like I want to go back into the mountains, like I do it today, right? So I said, I'm going to shift my focus towards achieving South Pole. So I want to like do what it takes to do that. So I started like following up on, you know, who do I reach out to? How do I train? What do I need to do to be able to like qualify to be at the South Pole? So those are all the things that happened in the next like 6 months. And I think by the end of December, I picked up a trainer. I picked up the expeditions that I want to do, and I picked up my goal of climbing to the South Pole in December 2024.
So 2023 was when you did the Annapurna
Yes,
trip.
I climbed Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, and I went halfway up Makalu and turned back.
Oh, oh my God. Does Polar Preet know what kind of an inspiration she has been to you? Have you ever had a chance to have a conversation with her?
It's like I'll tell you, I met her actually. So when I was in Antarctica, she was in Antarctica too. Um, so before I was going on the expedition, I felt like I need to prove it to her, right? I mean, I respect her so much that for me it was like a lot of my friends were taking pictures, like expeditioners who were there, were taking pictures with her. I mean, she inspired a lot of people, I would say. And I think that's the reason. Like, I think she did a lot of interviews, and she was probably the most like outspoken polar explorer, because everybody else who does these things are more, I would think, are more introverted. But then Polar is somebody who's like a little bit more. She enjoyed sharing her story, and I think that influenced a lot of people, right? For me, it was like, I don't think I deserve. It's something that I put onto myself as to like, you have to earn it. So I didn't want to take a picture with her before I went on the expedition. When I came back from the expedition, I think I took a picture with her the last day I was leaving. Haven't yet posted, but I'm going to post it soon. Yeah, she definitely was inspiration.
Wow, that's really special. That it's and good that you could meet her at the end of your expedition as well.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and we need, I think that's where diversity in the outdoors helps us. I would say, almost representation, right? So I hope, my story inspires a lot of other people, and we get to explore Antarctica much more deeper, and do more challenging expeditions in
Most
there.
certainly. How can it not be inspiring? I mean, it's huge what you've done. It's phenomenal. Like I said, also
Yeah.
coming from India, there are a lot of trekkers, a lot of folks who like mountaineering and all that. It's really picking up a lot now. But this is
Yes.
dreaming big and
Yes.
achieving big. So definitely, something like that would be an inspiration for a lot of people. Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
Satish, so now December 2023, you've made a decision, you've found your trainers and all that. How do you start training? Also, how do you raise funds for all of it? It's really expensive as well. So how did you start your entire planning process on how do I do it one by one by one by one, and setting deadlines for yourself and things?
It's like, sometimes you don't want to overthink it.
But I think you're quite the planner, right?
Yes, but then again, if you think of how am I going to raise like 120,000, you wouldn't even start today, right? Like, because you'll be like so
Yeah,
overwhelmed with that
correct.
number. Because a lot of the, I know that, for a lot of expeditioners, so I mean, I've spent close to like 300, $400,000 in the last like 4 or 5 years to like do the things that I've been doing, right? That's a big number. That's a big amount. And for a lot of expeditioners, they would say that fundraising is probably the most challenging task. It's sometimes it's even actually harder than like climbing the mountain or like skiing to South Pole, right? You would endure 50 days of that pain than having to send those emails and like not even get a
Yeah.
response back. So, I mean, I think the way I did it was just to like not think about it. My goal was to get to the South Pole. So when I came back from Dhaulagiri or Annapurna expeditions, right, I just got back into running. I was running running has always been this constant like a staple thing that I enjoy doing. So like go back to running like 40, 50, 60 miles a week. I find joy in that. So it never was like
Training kinds.
yeah, training. I started doing that, and all I was focused was my first step. I reached out to ALE, a company called Antarctica Logistic Expeditions. So that's the company that organizes the expeditions in Antarctica. I asked them as to what would it take me to go to the South Pole, and they've sent me a questionnaire, one where you have to list all the expeditions that you've done, like what relevant experience do you have to go to the South Pole, and so they look at it and then they determine if you're eligible to go to the South Pole solo. So I did that, and then the guy comes back to me. There's a representative from ALE who comes back to me and says that, you have to like do certain steps before you can, apply again. He asked me to like go for some training with an IPGA guide, International Polar Guide Association, I believe. So the guides were certified by IPGA. He said and he gave me a list of people I could approach and where they are situated at. So most of the guides are usually in Norway and then in Canada. And then even in Minneapolis, or Minnesota, I guess. But I wasn't so keen on Minnesota because if I'm gonna get training, I would rather go to the Arctic Circle. I love the North. I'm very curious
So
about
what,
the North.
Norway, Greenland, and all of that, is it?
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed. Like Norway is like my favorite country. Anything over the Arctic Circle just fascinates me. So I chose to go to Baffin Island. So Baffin Island is this like small island between the mainland Canada and Greenland, but it belongs to Canada. I was like, when would I even go if I don't go right now? And I chose to go over there. It was a beautiful experience. I got to ski on the Arctic Ocean actually. So in the winter, Arctic Ocean freezes, and you learn how to travel on
Oh
Arctic
my
Ocean.
God, what is this experience like?
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful, but then it's also like brutal. It would get to like negative 35, 37. It would be windy. I think one of the nights I was with another lady who was from France. who was also training with us, and then there was a guide
Right.
who was helping us. So we finished the trek. We were in the tent. We were cooking our meals and everything else. After the meals, I was supposed to go back to my tent, open the zip. I could see like 360-degree of like northern lights. Like it's just one of the most beautiful northern lights I've ever seen.
God, you're telling all the
Yeah.
pretty things.
Yeah, no. So it's that experience is amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you are skiing on frozen water on the Arctic Ocean, and when you sleep in the nights, you could hear the waves crashing under you.
Oh,
You know, I mean, sometimes I would wake up and feel like, is it gonna break? So it was an experience.
goosebumps, man, Satish. Wow, that must have been something.
Yeah, yeah. And in the mornings, like, we would dig a small hole to like poop. And then I think one of the days I was digging a hole and I could see like the surface, like the water below it. And I was like, shit, I don't want to break and fall into it. So it was an amazing experience. And every night was Northern Lights. But then I think this one particular night, 360 degrees of Northern Lights, it was just amazing. But then again, you couldn't pay me like $1 million to take a photograph because it was that cold outside. Like it was just blistering cold. I think I just want to like run from that tent to the other tent and like just zip myself and like go to bed. Yeah, it was. I keep thinking about it. I want to go back again someday. Now that I'm a bit more prepared. Um, After that, I kind of caught a bit of a frostbite on that expedition. The way I planned it was I was going to get training in end of Feb, the beginning of March. I signed up for a 4-week expedition in Greenland in the month of May. And between these two expeditions, I was going to take a 10-day solo expedition in Norway, which was a prerequisite by ALE. ALE wants you to do training. ALE wants you to do a solo expedition. ALE wants you to do a group expedition. Because what they want is they want feedback from like multiple sources about your capabilities to be on the snow by yourself.
Wow.
And how strong you are as a person to be able to like, yeah, they don't, I mean, even if you have all the money, like, how Nepal does, right? If you have the money, they'll
That's
take
right.
anybody up the mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually going to
So,
ask, for example, if you have to go for any of these ultra marathons and ultra trails and all that, very often you'll have a timing certificate kind of thing. Only then you can qualify for, several of the larger ultra marathons and all that. Did this expedition in South Pole also have you certified somewhere else that you are ready for it?
yeah, it just comes through the guides, right? So the
Okay.
guide who trained me in Baffin, and then I did a crossing of Greenland too in the month of May. So once I've done my expedition in Greenland, I had to fill out the paperwork that I submitted the year before. I had to fill out the same paperwork and I had to list all the expeditions that I've done and then who my guides were as references. And then they would reach out to those guides and have a conversation with them, and then they determine if you're ready for that expedition.
Oh, beautiful. Very nice. It's a proper solid process that you have to go through before you go for this. So, and how long do each of these training sessions last? As in, is it like a week long or, for example, Baffin?
So Baffin one was 2 weeks long, but usually it's about a week long. And then they require you to do a 10-day solo expedition. And then the group expedition is completely up to your experience, your experience in the Arctic. I haven't spent much time, so I had to do the group expedition because I live in California. It's like sunny and beautiful over here.
So where did you do your group expedition then?
Oh, I did it in Greenland.
Okay.
So I went from Kangerlussuaq over to, I think, Isortok. It's about 600 kilometers. Beautiful again. I did it in summertime, so it was 24-hour daylight. Another experience. It kind of prepares you for Antarctica because Antarctica in December and Jan is also it's a 24-hour daylight. So it was a great experience. I did the crossing, but I had a minor frostbite when I was in the Arctic, so I couldn't do my solo expedition, which I planned to do before my group expedition, because I wanted my fingers to like heal properly so I can go on the group expedition. Once I've done the group expedition, I was a little disappointed that I couldn't do my solo, and it was too late. By the time like June, most of the glaciers and the lakes and everything else melt out, so it's not safe to do a solo. So I was kind of bummed. But then the guide who guided me on Greenland, or the company, reached out to me and said, I had a pretty strong review about how you've done on the snow. If you were to apply for South Pole, I would give you my best recommendation.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like I remember like it was like in July.
Okay.
Yeah, so I came back end of May. I took a month off because when you do a big expedition, you're supposed to like cool off so your body recovers completely. And July was, I think, around July 4th or July 5th is when I got the phone call. I had a call with the guy, and then he said, if you were to go, I would give you my best of my recommendation. And that's it. I mean, I said, okay, sure. I sent him my application. He helped me to prepare it the best I can to submit to ALE. I submitted my application, and then ALE came back to me on August 28th and said, we as a panel have reviewed your application, and if you were to go to South Pole, we would approve it.
Thrilling, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you jump in joy?
I remember, like, I was like, I was in bed, I was checking my, phone first thing in the morning, and I saw the email, I looked it up, and I was like, oh shit.
It's
Like,
real now.
yeah, it's real now. And the thing was, like, this is August 28th, right?
Right.
The November expedition starts usually around like mid-November. I mean, I was processing all this like while I was laying in bed, which means I have to be in Punta Arenas in Chile by November 9th or 10th, which means I have 2 months to push my training to next gear while working and also fundraise close to 120,000 to be able to go on the expedition.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. Initially, I think I took a snapshot and I sent it to my family, which I said, like, the first Indian to ever even qualify to do this. And I think I was just happy with just the qualification. And, I started preparing a deck to like send it to sponsors. But I think I kind of didn't feel like I was ready for it because I only had 2 months. And then I had the amount of money that I had to raise was like pretty
A lot.
it was pretty high. Yeah. And I didn't think it was practical actually. But then I mean I was doing my best. Like I said, right? I mean, for me, I would yeah, for something that I really want to do, I want to give it my best and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then I think there was something behind my mind which kept saying that maybe it's I mean, because I thought there would be a few people who'd be like very excited about what I'm trying to do. And they would definitely support my expedition. But then I didn't hear back from them in the first, like September was all just dead. Because I had a course attached to it, which was mental health, and I thought like it'd be a good partnership for both me and the companies because we're trying to do the same thing as to like highlight how like mental health is so important for us all.
100%.
And not one company came forward. But it was like challenging because I would wake up. I mean, I was going through I always go through physical therapy of like for something that's going on because there's so much wear and tear on my body all the time. I would wake up at like 5:30. I would take a bus to the physical therapy, 6 o'clock appointment, 6:30, 7 o'clock. I would do the appointment, and then I would run back home 3.5 miles, and I would shower and like quickly work. I would work from 8 to 5. Between 8 to 5, I would like squeeze in like a hit session somewhere. And once I'm done, I would like just lazy around for like half an hour, and then I would either go for a run or I would drag my tires. So I had two tires. I created my own training module in the sense like I have two SUV tires like attached to each other, and I would drag those tires around the park in front of my house for like 2.5 hours, usually.
It's
End of the day.
crazy intense.
Yeah, all the dogs. It's a favorite thing for all the dogs in the park. They would all just keep barking at those tires.
You're the
I
favorite
was the
there.
dog favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
favorite.
was the dog favorite. And
Cute.
then everybody would love to like stop me and ask me like, what are you doing? Like, is this a workout?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
2.5 hours. It's a lot of
yeah,
time to pull those tires. My God.
yeah, yeah. I would just like put on some headphones and not pay attention, like and just keep going around, like listening to some podcasts and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd just do that, or some days I would just do like an hour session and just go for like a long run for like an hour, hour and a half. Would come back home around 8:38, and I would have my dinner. And from like 9 onwards to like almost like midnight, I would keep sending random people emails. It was a very painful process. And then when I was not getting any responses, I was getting pretty disappointed. I
Dejected,
remember
panicky, all of it.
yeah. I reached out to Preet Chandi actually. I was like, hey Preet, do you have, would you mind sharing a few moments? And like, just like, she jumped on a call, I think the following week, and she said the same thing, dude. It's all about momentum. This is a momentum game. I don't know how this happens, magically happens. you'll have like one person sign up, and then immediately after that, you'll
Tuck,
have
tuck,
like
tuck,
15
tuck, tuck,
people
tuck,
sign
tuck,
up.
tuck.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And she said it's going to go to the last minute. She's like, she's like, I've done 3 expeditions, and every single time it went to the last minute. So don't even think that, it's going to be easy. This probably could be maybe the biggest challenge for you. So she said that, and then I have a friend who's a photographer, who's an entrepreneur in the past. Was having a dinner with him one of the days, and he was curious as to like where I was going to go next, adventure-wise. I told him about the South Pole expedition, and he immediately said, "Dude, I mean, I've seen enough of you. I would love to help you. Don't hesitate to ask me for help." And I said, "Yeah, that would be great." And I think a week after, I had a call with him. I just told him like, "This is my plan. This is my cause, and this is the reason for the cause." And I want to do this. And he said, I'll definitely help you, and also like reach out to my friends. Yeah, I think just him probably like got me like almost 50% of my budget the very next
Wow.
week. When people ask me like, how did you manage to do 50 days by yourself? I said there was a lot of like amazing things that happened in my life, and I was like very grateful. And I was just thinking about everybody who helped me, and and there were so many people who helped me to be where I am today, that they were like the memories just kept coming, like all the good memories just kept coming, that I never felt like I was alone. Right. So yeah, I mean, he just came back to me the week after, and he said like, "How much do you raise?" I said like X, and he said like, multiply that by 3, because like I was like, and they
Oh
just,
man, that's really, really. I mean, you can't repay such things.
oh no,
Someone
no,
who's been
absolutely
like
not.
he literally was behind you for it. So
Oh
that
yeah,
is, yeah.
and I mean, I'm talking about a serious entrepreneur.
Wow.
And he took the time to like reach out to his friends. He sent me an Excel sheet. Excel sheet had everything in it, like email people, text people, call
He
people.
believed in your
Yeah,
cause as
absolutely.
well as in your physical
Yeah,
ability, both.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, and once he did that, I wasn't close to the amount. But then when I was like debating if I should continue this year or maybe like push to next year, because I know that I would probably could lose my job.
Yeah.
So I was trying to like make the best decision possible. But I think like when he came and I was like, you know what? I mean, when someone puts in so much effort, you have to like just go all in. And I just signed up for it. That's just how it happened. I mean, everything came out in the last, like, I would say, yeah, I was in Punta Arenas when like, and people were still like sharing, were like, and sending money towards my expedition.
Preet was right till the last day.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For me, it was like, just do your best possible and then just leave it on the table. Every time I run, I was like manifesting that it would happen, and it kind of happened. So very grateful for the whole experience.
Yeah,
So
either it's manifesting or it's just curiosity. I really think that you were so curious. You have like this curious bug in you which pushes and motivates you a lot. Because at every point, what the next one is, oh, I really want to experience that myself kind of curiosity pushed you for the first marathon that you ran. You were curious about what the wall is and how are you going to feel about it. The first mountain that you went to, you wanted to see, oh, how is it? And in fact, other first mountain, you actually got to know that it was the highest only when you came back. And as soon as you came back is when you started, researching about Everest because you were curious about how it was going to
yeah,
be. So I think it's a
yeah.
curiosity that pushes you to the next,
No,
next
definitely.
times.
Yeah, yeah. I think the mountain story, I think, yeah, curiosity is
Mm.
definitely there. I was climbing, I was happy climbing the lower 40, the mountains in the lower 48.
Yeah.
But then it was a curiosity to like to stand on top of Denali and see how it would look like from the top. And while I was doing Denali, somebody told me, "You are ready for big mountains." And so I think just to test that curiosity is when I started doing like bigger mountains. Yeah, that curiosity could get me into trouble, but so far it has been okay.
So I've come around to feeling that you're a pretty well planned person. Like you plan your things pretty well instead of being like spontaneous. Let's do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like I'm definitely manifesting, because I think as soon as I finished my mountaineering journey in 2023, when I came back from Makalu, I had a respiratory illness while I was on the mountain. I seeked out a few doctors. I took some suggestions as to like what I should do. And once I felt like my lungs were like, back to normal, the very moment I switched completely from the mountains over to Polar. And I probably listen to every Polar podcast that's out there every day during the run. I probably listen to Polar Preet's experience. at least 200 times. I'm not even kidding. Like, every time I would be running or something like that, if I didn't find anything, I would like go to one particular episode of Polar Preet and just like listen to it. For me, the last year and a half, I would say, was completely dedicated towards how do I get there, right? I mean, this is how I see myself in the Jan of 2025. What do I need to get there? Well, that was the only thing on the mind the whole time. So
Wow. Okay, now with all the crazy amount of curiosity that you've built in us, how was it? How was your 51 days there? 51 days solo is unbelievable.
yeah, I think to start off, I'm going to start with 2020.
Yes.
So 2020, during the pandemic, I've struggled with mental health after my mom passed away. There was a lot of guilt in me that I couldn't help her when she was struggling through some mental health issues, and not knowing much about it. All the thing I would ask her is like, "Have you been to the doctor? Like, what did the doctor say? Did he give you any medication? Did you take the medication?" And that is all I could do. I could hear her suffering, but then there was nothing more I could do to help the situation, right? She had a series of incidents. She had an accident in one of the temples, and then my great grandmother and passed away in her care 1 year, and the year after that, my grandfather, he passed away in her care, and then she was going through like menopause, so it was also like back to back to back.
Blows, yeah.
Yeah, and she wasn't cutting a break over there, and so I thought like she was just grieving, and I thought like she would eventually she takes the medication, but it turned the other way, and she decides to like take her life. So for me, that was the biggest turning point, I would say. Mountaineering happened around the same time too. Mountains gave me something that running couldn't give me. It wasn't just the adventure part of it. It was also, I would say, more towards like my mental health, and I was feeling like then the more I spent time in the outdoors, because when I was running, I was like mostly running in the cities, right? I mean, I was living in LA. I was lived in DC, New York, LA, San Francisco. So most of my running was in the cities, right? The only time I was like in the outdoors was when I was going into the mountains. So I think that's just how the love for the outdoors and the
A
mountains,
lot of
like,
processing your own thoughts,
yes,
of course,
yeah.
grief, but a lot of thoughts around it as well. I mean,
Oh,
why,
definitely.
how,
Yeah,
what better, so many things. Oh my God,
yeah,
I'm really sorry, Satish. Tough.
yeah. So I think that's just how it started for me. And I think when I started going into the mountains, I was able to process it. But then there was always this like, grief and sadness. So when I was going to the South Pole, my brother would often ask me, "Are you going to, I'm not worried about the physical aspect of things. They're like, you can do it, right? We don't question it. Would you be okay mentally though?" So that was a question, right? And it was something that I was curious about too. So that was the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah. I can totally get this worry that your brother must have felt.
Yeah. So going on to like, when I got landed over there, the first few days was all about like, you're trying to figure out a few things, right? Because it takes a while for you to like to fall into a routine. Because I live in San Francisco, so I didn't really have snow to like,
Yeah, I know.
like to practice setting up my tent or so.
From the beautiful fall season, you're entering directly, you're entering this kind of weather.
Yeah. And the other athletes who were trying to do the expedition are from Norway or England or from the Baltic countries.
They have the benefit of acclimatization when before coming here.
Yeah, the cold, they're used to the cold, they've lived in the cold. And the Norwegians have been like doing this since she was like 3 years old. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
part of
and
their bone and body structure as well.
yes, yeah. So it takes a first like a week or so for you to like, because your body is not used to be dragging 126 kilo or anything close to it remotely, right? It's one thing to like drag a tire in your neighborhood, and it's another thing to like drag a 126 kilo sled in the middle of nowhere, right? So I think the first few days was all about acclimatizing to like, the conditions over there,
Right.
to get used to the cold, to get used to the loneliness, to get used to dragging 126 kilo, and also was using the compass for the first time like by myself. So I want to make sure like I don't get lost somewhere, because Antarctica is so huge, you don't want to like end up in like no man's land.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Between the different days, it's the same site almost.
Yes, yes. But the first week was all about like, just trying to get into the routine. How do you set up your tent, and how can you make it more efficient? and then like the direction wise, right? How do you set up your compass, and how often do you look at the compass and such? And the first week was pretty entertaining because you're only supposed to like travel to like shorter distances because you're also like going up the hill and your splits are heaviest at that point.
Yeah.
So you have to like take it slow because you don't want to like push too fast and like get injured or so. So that was the process in the first week. The second week was supposed to get better actually. So this is when you're supposed to increase your distances to like get closer to like 18 to 20 kilometers.
Okay.
The first week I was doing like closer to like, I would say like 11, 13, 14
And that's
kilometers.
how many hours approximately?
I think the first week I was skiing like maybe like 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
Just depending upon like how I was feeling. It was all completely where I was and how I was feeling that day.
Okay.
If I went up a huge hill, I
Mm.
would, when I get up, I would like take a break and like just camp over there.
Mhm.
So it was all up to me completely. The second week was when I was supposed to pull. It started snowing pretty badly. And this is when I was supposed to like increase my mileage.
Yeah.
The sled would like completely sink into the deep snow. And it was the most challenging time, I would say, of all the expedition to come. I mean, the last week, and I would say the second week are probably the most challenging for me.
Soft snow?
Very soft snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Soft snow. So you're like the sled completely sinks in.
Mhm.
And on top of soft snow, you also had whiteouts. So you can't see, I can't even see anything that's like, even 3 feet ahead of me.
So visibility is like 3 feet when you're in a whiteout.
Yeah, almost. I mean, sometimes it's just like in a marshmallow. Like you just don't, you can see the tip of your skis,
I
right?
like marshmallow equivalent.
Yeah. Literally, like everything around you is just white and you just skiing. Yeah.
And how do you get a direction? Just your compass, like when you're in a whiteout, how do you maneuver yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely the challenge, right? Because when it's a nice sunny day, you point your compass and you see a landmark, or like
Correct.
you don't even have to. It's not a landmark.
You
It's
don't
like a
have a
small piece
landmark.
of like snow. It's a small piece of snow in the just shining under the sun, right?
Mhm.
So you just keep staring at it and like keep skiing towards it.
Right.
But when it comes to like a whiteout situation,
Mm.
there's nothing. Just have to bend your head down and look at the compass in front of you and ski the best possible direction. So you're supposed to go 180 degrees, but you could be 180 degrees from anywhere here. So you could even be like moving to the side and like
Like
keep.
going off the trail almost.
Yeah. So I was drifting. You definitely drift more toward the right or to the left. It's never a straight line on whiteout days.
Oh,
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah. I think the second week was challenging, and then I think that was when I questioned if I came to the expedition too soon,
Mhm.
because there were days when I would completely like just be laying flat, trying to like push forward,
Mhm.
60 degrees, 70 degrees, trying to like move, and my sled wouldn't even move. Um, so it was, I would say, like probably the biggest challenge. And like, when I doubted if I could finish it, even I thought maybe I came in here too soon. Maybe I should have like spent a couple more years to like
Mhm.
just drag tires around the house to get ready. And of course, I also don't know what others were going. Like there were other, I think there were a couple other people who were
Mhm.
doing the same experience that I was doing. I can't see where they were. And I thought like maybe I was a weakling, and they were probably doing better. So when you like solo, that's one of the things like
Question
you try to
yourself.
compare your
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I think that was a challenge, I would say, because
Yeah.
I had a chance to like talk to those guys when I was in Punta Arenas,
Mhm.
and every one of those guys have been saying that they've been training for this for like 2 years, 3 years, some for like 6 years, and some because they needed. I mean, it took them so long to gather the funds.
Got
For
it.
some, it's just when they thought they were ready for it. And I was just there, like, just smirking, like, oh, I've only been here 7 months. It only has been like 6 months since I've started this journey.
Oh
Yeah,
my God, it's tough to get positive thoughts when you are, when you such flurry of
yeah,
self-questioning thing comes to your
yeah,
mind. Like pushing it out is a task. Really, it's a task.
yeah,
But do you carry
yeah.
satellite phones through which you
Yes,
can?
yes, yeah. You're supposed to carry two satellite phones, one as a backup, and supposed to carry two GPSs, one as a backup.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of the electronic gadgets to like
Okay.
keep me safe.
Okay. So you can call your base camp or something and ask, am I doing okay? Am I progressing
Uh,
fine? Things like that.
They wouldn't be able to tell because at the end of the day, you could go different variations as long as you end up. I mean, I think the only thing they would. I think it didn't happen to me, but it happened to one of the guys.
Mhm.
He's an Olympian from Turkey. So you have the geographic South Pole, and then you have the magnetic South Pole.
Okay.
So you have to like at some point change your GPS to point towards the geographic South Pole, not the magnetic South Pole. Because normally when you like, put your compass out, it's always going to point towards the magnetic South
That's
Pole.
right.
Right.
I never
Yeah.
thought of that.
Yeah. So this guy, he's a good friend of mine now. He started like skiing towards whatever his compass was showing, and he like completely drifted off the route for a good day and a half. He realized that's when he realized that he was doing a mistake, and he had to like come back straight route. And then he did like a whole Z. So he lost like 3 days, I think, like in just doing the maneuver. So yeah, I mean, yeah, happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
it
too
happens
was a
sometimes.
whiteout almost throughout.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, when you were challenged by the conditions, I think I was more present because you have to like figure out like where am I going, and you constantly worried. You're trying to look at your compass. You're trying to like make the best decisions possible. You're more wary. I think once I passed through those stages, and I think once I've like went into a field where it was more flat. Initially, there were like a lot of sastrugi's, like and these are the wind formations and such. But when I went into the flat land, I was able to like be a little bit more free. There's also like 2 weeks into the expedition, so I got used to like my gear. I got
Right.
used to my and setting up tents and everything else. I got used to the cold and everything else. So this is when I think the fun part began. You start thinking about life. You start thinking about like how would life change after this expedition, and you start thinking about like all the things that got you where you were at that day. You start thinking about like the positive things that happen in your life. You start thinking about like work. I was thinking about work, like what would happen to work when I go back. Do I still have a job? I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And it's just a lot of these things. Like I think most days you would think the same things over and over again, and you come to such clarity some days. Yeah, I know. It's just it was just
Wow.
a beautiful feeling. I wasn't listening to any music, so that was one of the challenges I put myself into. I was like, I'm not going to listen to any music on this expedition.
Why?
I said I just want to like just be free, like out just out there enjoying it. The only thing I had it on my phone was like 3 Telugu movies from YouTube, right? So there was this that 3 Telugu movies on YouTube that I downloaded. Um, I would not even watch them actually, because I mean these were like 3 of my favorite movies, so I would like just play them in the background, and then just like I'll be like boiling water, or cooking, or like doing some comms or something, something, or like some stitching or something like that, right? And like some days I'm like skiing and I keep thinking about like the dialogues of the movie. It's like I think some days I look at, I think of like my nephews and how much they like make me happy.
Yeah.
All the good things like I talked about, right? I would think about like everybody who responsible for me to be there in the first place. I would think about the impact I could potentially be doing with the cause that I was there for. And those were pretty good enough, actually. When I needed a little bit more motivation, my motivation was that, like, dude, I mean, you're going to be the first Indian to like raise the Indian flag at the South Pole.
What pride. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like, I thought about like what the moment would look like. I mean, I've seen pictures of like people posting and just posing at the South Pole, but I didn't know how the road to the South Pole would look like and such, right? So I had my own imaginary creation in my head.
So you were making your stories in your head. Were you talking to yourself as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, not just to myself too. I think I would talk to, you only have like one change of pair of socks, a pair of underwear, and then maybe one change of pair of like a shirt, right? You wear the same clothes every day. I live in San Francisco. Now it's known for entrepreneurship and a lot of good things, but also sadly, there's also like a lot of like homeless people here.
Yes.
And sometimes they just get on the bus and like they start smelling, right? And then I would always wonder, like, do they not smell themselves? So I was going through the same motion, like, I think in the first 15 days, like I started smelling. Then I started wondering, like, at what day would I,
Get used to that.
yeah. And I think it was like day 30. I was like, okay, I no longer can smell myself.
My God, that is such an interesting observation.
Yeah.
Oh, you get so used to the surroundings
Yeah.
that you just don't get it. My
And
God.
and I had a sled behind me. So the sled was a huge part of my expedition because it can't break, right? And it can get stuck at some places. It could sink low in the snow. So
Yes.
it had its own character, right?
Did you give your sled a name?
Yeah, I call it a gaja, like an elephant, right? I was thinking about the movie. There's a Telugu movie called Rajendrudu Gajendrudu. It's about Rajendra Prasad and an elephant that he has, which he wins as a lottery. I was feeling the same way. I won my sled as a lottery, and I was like dragging it around Antarctica. So I called him like
And
Gaja.
you're creating an entire movie in your head.
Yeah, and so I would just like every time it flips. So there's a lot of like ups and downs. It's not like it's it is flat for the most part, but then there's also a lot of like ups and downs and a lot of like a lot of sastrugis. Your sled would like flip and fall, and like to move a sled that's 126 kilos is pretty hard. Um, so I would keep yelling at it like, "Kujo, not today. It's white out. Let's keep moving." And then my harness, right? I mean, I had a harness on which was attached to the sled and would drag that harness on. The harness by itself, the buckle broke. So I had to make some temporary fixes to it. And once the fix is such that, like in the morning when I put it on, I cannot take it off.
Oh.
So I have to like just compress myself and put it on, so it's tight and remains over there. So if I take it off, it'd be a struggle to put it back on. And then I had to like fix it with some penises and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a maneuver.
Bunch of life skills you have to learn before you go on this.
Yes,
So
yes.
many different things. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would talk to everything. I would talk to my harness. I would say, like, please not today. Just get back in there. Or sled, please don't fall. If it's my stuff, I'm like, what's happening today? You were fine yesterday. Like, there's a lot of like these dialogues that keep going
Everything is
on.
personified around you.
Yeah. And I would have like they call cartons. These are like some woolen socks that we wear on top of my socks. Like they keep your feet warm, and they keep tearing off because it's like like it gets wet, and then it's all just wool all put together, right? So it keeps breaking off as you keep using it. So I would keep begging it, please not today, like yeah, it's
Very cute.
yeah, no, I kind of like miss it. I actually hit a low when I came back to mainland.
Suddenly
Because
one void.
yeah, because it's like when you think of it, right? I had everything I wanted. Life was much more simple. So people like I've been struggling to go back on social media or to answer messages like my friends keep sending me or any such, right? Because like I was on this snow for like almost like 50 odd days with everything that I needed, right? For the initial 2 weeks, I felt a little like maybe I was trying to like figure out how this was going to go. But once I figured it out, it was all about like just managing the elements, right?
Yes.
The cold and then the whiteouts and the sastrugi and such. But I knew that the expedition was going to end at the end of 50 days. I had gas, I had food, I had everything that I needed on my sled, and no animals in Antarctica.
That's right. Yeah.
There's no microorganisms over there. So there was nothing for me to like worry about, right? Everything I needed was right there with me. So it was just like an amazing feeling. And I keep thinking about like how fortunate I am that I'm spending 50 days in this beautiful space. It's the safe space actually. I don't have to worry about anything. There's nothing troubling me, right? So it was it was a privilege, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely questioned myself the second week if I was ready for it. But then, absolutely, all the time, like, I was like, this is beautiful. This is, I'm glad I'm doing this expedition. Yeah.
How did you plan so perfectly that, it's going to be 50, 51 days and I have to carry ration for
Oh, I
51
did
days?
not. Yeah. I did not. So I think when we were all at the base camp, when we're starting the trek, right? Everybody else, like I would say the people from the north, because they were all very closer to the Arctic Circle. They're always saying like, "Oh, I'm going to do this in 40 days. I'm going to do this in like 45 days." Some said
Right.
48 days. And for me, I was like so tempted to say, when I knew that I was strong, I did that. I learned that when I was in Greenland, but I also didn't want to be overconfident. So I said, like, I think they say, like, on average, like 54 to 55 days is what they say, what it should take. So I think that's what I did. And also, like, I had to cut down because everybody else's the sled weights were about like 105, 108. And my sled was like 126 kilo. So it was at least like, I would say, like, 15 to 20 kilos heavier than other people. Right. So I had to be wary as to like how many days of food I was carrying. So I told myself, like, whatever it would be, like, 55 days is good enough. I could ration myself if I need to. And also was packing such that like for the first 40 days, I had like about 5,800 to 6,000 calories of food. And for the last like 15 days, I was packing extra breakfast, extra, like a cheese and all that kind of thing. So I knew that if I had to, I could ration it out a little bit better, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was it. But also, like, I was using a lot of the equipment for the first time too. The skis, I bought brand new skis. But
Okay.
then again, like, if I break a ski or if I break a binding, my expression ends over there, right? So I carried extra ski with me. I had a cart tongue, but then I also carried an extra cart tongue from Greenland trip. This is the woolen sock.
Okay.
And also carried a synthetic, like a cart tongue, and just in
Mm-hmm.
case. I think I took like 10 toilet paper rolls. I don't know why. I only needed like three of them. The other seven, I just left it at the South Pole.
For contingencies.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that I'm stronger. I was stronger, but I feel like I'm like I'm working out things right now. But I knew that I was stronger physically to pull that weight if I want to. I mean, 126 was a little too much, I would say. 110 was what I was hoping, but 120 became 126, but it was okay for the most days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to like have everything extra, like that I would need extra stove, extra cartons, extra ski, extra poles, because so these are all like essential. If you don't have one of those, your expression ends right there,
Ends.
right? So for me, I was like, I want to like if I felt secure to err on, more weight.
Yeah. Did you ever need to use your backup anywhere? Like, was anything that went
Um,
off, got damaged, anything?
I would say pole. I broke my pole on like day four. Yeah, I was setting up my camp, and it came under my ski, and it just broke. Yeah, that was the only thing. But I think
Mm-hmm.
it was a good because I was using like longer poles, and those
Mm-hmm.
poles were giving me like a little bit of my shoulder issues.
Okay.
Once the pole broke, I put it inside, and it took like shorter poles. Shorter poles were amazing,
Oh,
so
great.
happened for a good reason. I think that was the only thing extra that I had to use.
Okay.
But it felt pretty good. Like, most days I kept telling myself that except for my shoes, everything else I had extra. So there's like absolutely nothing stopping you from reaching the South Pole. Just the shoes have like a small pole behind them.
Mm-hmm.
That pole is, yeah, that's the only thing that your expedition, like, just like depended upon. Just don't break that pole and you'll be fine, is what I told myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and so when you are towards the end of your, skiing expedition, at which stage do you know that you're about to reach?
I mean, every day we were given a time slot to report back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was supposed to call ALE, the company that was organizing, every day between 9:20 to 9:30 to
Okay.
report my whereabouts. How much distance did I travel today? How much time did it take to me?
Mm-hmm.
And then what were my longitude and latitude? That way they were able to like track. I mean, in case like, if I don't call back one of the days,
Correct. Mm.
if I needed help, they would know where to look for and what, around and the radius to look for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so I've always known how much distance I was traveling every day because I had a GPS with me too.
Right.
So I knew that the last day I had like 18 and a half kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I just wanted to be like an easy day. And I think like I skied like 7 kilometers in the morning. And then so South Pole has a few like buildings over there. They have a research center. They have a huge telescope, and then they have a few other buildings and there's smoke coming out of the outlets and such like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
heated and such, right? 11 kilometers away, I saw those buildings, and I was like, oh shit. I think I hit it down then because it's like, as much as it's like when you know that your destination is only like like a day away, you want to like push it and get it done. But when I actually saw the buildings, I was like, I'm gonna miss this lifestyle I've had for like the
Mm.
last 50 days, right? It was, I mean, as much as I missed people, like, I miss my nephews, I miss my family, I miss like good
Mhm.
food. I think randomly in the middle of like nowhere, I missed like a good scotch. I wish I had like a good scotch. You know, as much as I wanted to like experience all that, I also felt like I was going to miss the lifestyle I had the last 50 days. I was at peace. I was having the best time. I mean, it was some days it was hard, some days it was like extremely cold. Had to be extremely careful. Everything was cold, everything hurt. But that's when I like think when it hit me that I'll probably be able to do this in the next 3 hours.
Mhm.
I just like stopped. I just like stopped. I started eating all my like favorite snacks. I took out my like GPS device, like a satellite and its communication device, and
Mhm.
I reached out to my trainer who trained me in Baffin Island. I reached out to my guide in Greenland, and I reached out to my mentor in Norway. I sent them a message saying that I'm 11 kilometers away. I could see the South Pole. It's a beautiful day, no wind whatsoever. I'm gonna make the South Pole in like 3 hours. And I just like, and I said, I'm really thankful for everything that you guys have done. I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for the support. All that. Like you
Yeah,
get like,
yeah,
really
yeah.
sentimental.
Sentimental, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I started like reaching out to like some of the guys who were following me, like some really good friends who were following me. Like I started sending them messages, like and saying like thankful. I started sending them pictures actually.
Mhm. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, I was telling them the same thing. I don't know, dude. I don't want to. I want to finish, but I also don't want to finish. And this is just a happy moment. Like when you know that you can get there anytime you want to,
Yes.
but then also feel like you're part of the expedition still.
I want to soak it in a little more.
Yeah. So just
Ah.
like sat there and like had all my favorite snacks. Yeah, yeah, no, it was pretty good. Yeah.
What was some of the, happy snack that you had carried? So like a cheat meal, like what they say otherwise.
Yeah,
Was there
no.
anything that is one of your happy
The
things?
one that I looked forward to the most eating was my wafers. These were hazelnut wafers. It's
Oh, nice.
Hanuta, Hanuta, Hanuta.
Mhm.
These are like my favorite. Like everybody kept saying that, dude, you're gonna crush them because like it'll be packed between like so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
You'll crush them, but I was like, I don't care. Like, I just want, even if it's like a powder, I just want to like have it from home. But I think for the most part, they were pretty good. I really enjoyed having them. Yeah, the first day in the morning, I would usually have like my dried fruit because if it's later in the day, they get like really cold and
Mm.
very hard to chew.
Mhm.
Early in the mornings, it was like fine. So when I take the first break, I would usually have my fruit. Because also not that hungry because I just had a big breakfast before I left. My second hour, so every hour I would stop for 10 minutes and I would take a break. I would drink some water, I would put some sunscreen, I would eat some food.
Mhm.
So I would have one wafer, which is about like I think 150 calories or so.
One wafer. That's so much
Yeah.
of discipline to
It's
stop
it's
at one.
it's like a nice block, I would say, it's like a 2-inch block.
Okay.
I would have that. And then at my hour three, I would have another wafer. So once after that, I'm done, right? After that, it didn't really matter to me what I was eating. It was mostly like peanuts and cashews and
Mhm.
some gummies, some cookies, chocolate actually, chocolate like, and I
Mhm.
was eating like close
I
to
was
60.
going to ask. A lot of people say that they do a lot of hot chocolates during this trip
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah. I
very
mean, not
calorie dense is what you have to eat, right?
yeah. So I was carrying like close to like 1,600 calories of chocolate bar, like the whole big chocolate bar that you get at the airports.
Yeah.
We were supposed to eat one every day. So majority of the calories came from eating chocolates.
What if
Um,
you didn't like chocolates? What would you have done?
oh, I don't know what people would do. I didn't have that
Yeah.
problem. So it was good. Yeah. But then I feel like I probably need a lot of like repair on my teeth because of that. No, it was
Oh
good.
my God. Hmm.
Yeah. So I think chocolate was one thing I would look forward to eating.
There's this guy who said that his cheat snack is, you get these papad, these this mango jerky kind of things
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
get.
yeah. Like I said, like yeah, the dried fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 correct. That's also like something like a dried fruit.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the ones that they sell at the Trader Joe's.
Yes, it's called
Um,
mango jerkies. Yeah, over
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So that is one of his cheat meals
yeah, yeah.
when
I
he
had the
goes
same
around.
ones too. It's just that like you'd be surprised as to like those things get really hard.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in your mouth and you like soak it 30 seconds before you chew on it. It's not the same. Yeah,
So under all the layers of clothes that you wear when you're out,
yeah.
do you still feel cold?
So you're not supposed to sweat when you are skiing because sweat easily converts to frostbite.
Mm-hmm.
So you are supposed to ski a little colder. When you're skiing, you're supposed to feel a little cold, and not too cold, but just the right amount of cold. So you're feeling like fresh and like not sweating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you stop, you're supposed to like throw on a layer on you. Yeah.
Oh, and it's bright and sunny 24 hours a day over there.
Yeah, I mean, most days, right? I think it's nice when it's nice and sunny, it's beautiful.
Mm.
But I mean, I think it's an equal proportion of nice and sunny days. Also, you would see whiteout days. You would also see like low visibility days.
Like it's a blur everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in the goggles, it just feels like very weird. I don't know how to explain that even. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very dreamy.
Yeah, it's very dreamy. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
That's how I can picture it as well.
yeah.
And so, how is it? Is it okay to sleep when it's bright outside?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think when you like ski for like 13, 14 hours, you instantly fall asleep.
Exhaustion.
Yeah. When I would come inside the tent and like close the zip, that was my favorite moment because once inside the tent, it's like nice and warm, it's protected. And I also like enjoyed my dinners. They were like dry tech meals, very tasty. I also carried a few stuff from Low Foods and
Yeah.
Sudarshan. He gave me a lot of like the madras, the mixture. It was like after a long day of eating like sugary stuff. When you come back into and the peanuts, the masala peanuts, the masala peanuts and the madras, the
Yeah.
mixture, like it would like hit you, like the whole South Indian thing out of just comes out of you.
Yeah, I know. Low Foods has some really healthy and yummy snacks.
Yeah, no.
Oh man.
And then a lot of the meals too. Even though the company is it's a Norwegian company, it's called Real Food. The food that I carried were lamb muttigani. I mean, I think maybe it's a Tamil dish. I think it's like lamb and
Okay.
dal. Um, then I carried the chicken tikka masala and I had a chicken curry. Those were the three Indian things. I had some of the beef and some pork, like all pulled pork and all the kind of things. Really delicious, actually. That's one of the things I used to look forward to, like a warm meal. And while I was having that, I would have like chips on the side and I have like some cheese and salami and such. So very delicious.
Nice. Sounds good. I was going to ask, but did you miss like a good solid meal? But it seems that
Oh no, I was very happy with my meals in the evenings. I took some Maggie. I don't eat Maggie at all, but then on expeditions, like it's something that hits your taste, right? It's that masala thing that hits you. So only on expeditions I take it. Half of them were Maggie and half of them were like some of the Asian
got it.
noodles. So I would always look forward to my dinner. It was one of my favorite things. So I think when I closed my zip was like my favorite moment. When I shut off the stove in the evenings, when I'm supposed to like sleep, was the moment that I hated the most because it always felt like I closed my eyes and then my alarm rang like the second time.
You passed out in
Yeah.
between.
Just passed out. You just pass out and then your alarm rings the next second. Waking up in the mornings was always a struggle. It was like cold outside. But yeah, no, I would be excited to like hear. So I have a mentor who was like monitoring while I was traveling. Every morning he would send me the weather
Okay.
report, something to like look forward to, so I can like plan accordingly, like how to dress up and such. Breakfast was not I'm not used to eating breakfast, so it wasn't my favorite
Okay.
thing. But then I
You
I
had
had
to.
to eat it. Yeah, yeah. It was hard to like get outside the tent and to pack the tent. But I think like once I packed the tent, once the sled is all packed, I didn't mind it. Like, the time would go pretty quickly, but until the packing thing was a struggle. But then once we kept moving, my body would warm
Yeah.
up, and I would go back into my thoughts again.
Conversations will start in your mind again. All that
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah.
business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled like close to 50 countries, and I've done so many mountaineering experiences. I have so many good friends, and my journey to the South Pole was not just like it didn't start like 6 months before or like 18 months before. It started with like my first run back in school. It was a whole endurance run all throughout, right? Until the moment where I was at that point. So there was so much to like look forward to and feel grateful for. And so like most days I was just happy being there. And like I said, right, I mean, there was nothing to worry about,
Yeah.
no boss to report to. I was living my childhood dream. I was to like, I was playing in the sun 24 hours, eating all my favorite junk food, like, chips and snacks and chocolates. Like, it's a childhood dream
Some
come true.
lizards and
So
snakes were the only things missing, and maybe your brother
yeah,
along with
yeah.
you.
That could have made it my trip more faster now. Because now I hate snakes and I'm scared of them. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man. So touchdown, South Pole. How was it? The moment when you reached your
Oh, it was amazing. So my friend Ali, he reached the day before me. He was doing another route. So I messaged him the year before, like the day before. I was like, I'm going to be there at around like 5 o'clock. Look for me. I want some nice pictures from your camera. So I think I was like, as I was skiing towards South Pole, I saw him getting, he jumped on a bike and he was trying to it was a bike with a fat tire,
Okay.
which is what you use in the snow.
Right.
He was trying to jump on the bike and with his camera. I could see him like rushing towards
Oh,
me.
lovely.
So I was, and then he falls down because he couldn't bike it.
You
And
had a comic
I think
scene play in front of you as well.
yeah. And when he came to me, I think the first thing I said is, "Dude, you look like 70 years old." His hair was all grown, and he had a lot of like frostbite on his face. I
Oh.
was like, it was like fun. After that, I went to the South Pole station where the manager was. She was there with the chef, and then there was another lady for like operations. They were like outside clapping and inviting me. But the South Pole was about 200 meters away from there. And so they asked me, "Do you want to come inside and have some tea and then go to the South Pole?" I said, "No, I want to just go finish it off and come back."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just like skied. I thought I would be like more emotional because I think when I was skiing every day, there would be a moment when I think about the moment of me reaching the South Pole.
Yeah.
I'll be like more emotional. But I think like on the day, it was such a beautiful day that I was just like skiing and I was like, I'm here, I'm done. And I took my flag out. I was proud of, put it up.
No tears, nothing.
No, for some reason, I felt like I almost cried every single day behind my goggles, just thinking about the moment. Maybe I thought about it so much that, when I was there, I think I was just happy. I
Just
was
joy.
I would keep like raising up my pulse, it's just the moment of like a jubilation,
Yeah.
it's just it
Yeah.
was
I did it.
yeah. It's like there was so much inside me, but then it just wasn't like coming out. I had a huge smile on my face. It's like I didn't cry, but then like the whole time I had like all my, maybe 28 teeth all like showing off. No, I was just very happy. I was throwing my hands up in the air. The moment of the fulfillment, the satisfaction of the achievement, was all there. Yeah, I thought I would be more emotional, but I think
Joy took over.
yeah. I think when I stopped to like text my, my trainer and my guide and such, I think that's where the moment was for me. Where it felt like I made it. That was the first moment when I saw that, and when I saw the buildings is when it hit me that you made it, right?
Yes.
I think from there I could have like crawled for 11 kilometers. I probably could have crawled to the South Pole. So I think that's where it was for me. When I actually went to the pole, it didn't really mean so much, but then just that I was there. Yeah. So yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Ali was there, and then another friend, Liddy, she was part of the South Pole crew. She was there, and they both were taking pictures. Yeah, just beautiful day. I was just
Nice.
ready to like just go back and eat whatever was on the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh my God. And throw away the 100 layers that you've been wearing for
Oh,
so many
absolutely.
days. Oh my
I don't.
God.
I think after that I just walked around in my base layers the whole time. Yeah, and not even a jacket. I think I was just walking around with my base layers. Yeah, no, it was a beautiful experience.
Oh man, oh gorgeous, really gorgeous. I'm getting so overwhelmed. I've been smiling, my jaws
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah.
So what next?
I so when I came back, I lost my job, which was something that I was expecting. And one of the things I think when I decided like back when I was in the snow that again I'm just going with a leap of faith. It's becoming hard for me, both in personal relationship wise or even work wise, for me to like seek like 6 weeks off, 7 weeks off to go do the expeditions that I enjoy
Yes.
doing. I understand that it's something that I'm passionate about, but then I think, I mean, some companies are very encouraging. Like my previous bosses were like pretty encouraging of like the things that I was doing, right? And they were proud of like what I was doing. Yeah, I mean, so for me, I was like, maybe I want to take some time off. I've never like from the very beginning, I've always had a job and I've been working for the longest time, right? So it's like, it's going to be a little odd, but I want to take some time off and see if I can, do the few expeditions that I have in mind, like this year. Somehow, I don't know how.
Wow.
I have 3 remaining in Nepal. So I would love to do those 3 if I can this year. I don't know how the finances are going to come. But
It will, it will. Let's manifest it. It will.
yeah. I'm like I said, I'm just gonna keep working towards it and hope everything falls in place. Um, that I think I want to do. And then, my friends keep asking me as to like, what are you going to do after there are only like n number of 8,000-meter mountains to climb, right? And then once you've done the South Pole, I mean, what's there for you? So I also, I mean, I'm thinking about like, how could I contribute? I feel like when I do these expeditions, I'm already contributing. I'm inspiring a few people at least, even in one, right? I mean, I keep saying you don't have to like inspire very many. You have to inspire one.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, such right. It's just all I have to inspire is one person. So I think I probably would love to also guide a few people to like just to take them into outdoors. That's one of the things that always bothered me is to, like when I started running 2006, there weren't very many brown people, but now there are a lot of like runners, right? Mountaineers too. Then in the US, like there's so many outdoors, and I keep going myself, and I find myself one brown guy. I don't
Yeah,
see
yeah, true.
many people representing Indian or even Asian culture in general, like in the outdoors, right? Yeah, so I think I'm hoping that like some of my expressions would like just promote or inspire people to go outside. And I'm also thinking about maybe like lead a few groups into Everest Base Camp or Kilimanjaro,
Yeah.
Everest or Aconcagua, just to take them there, make them comfortable to be able to like do those things and see if I can inspire them to like push more. So that's an idea.
That would be so exciting.
Yeah. So I think that's the goal this year. I want to somehow find resources to like do the peak climbs. Also lead a few groups if I can. And there's a very special project. So since I started climbing, there's a mountaineer by name Malli Mastan Babu,
Mm-hmm.
who's from Andhra Pradesh. He
Mm-hmm.
passed away. Amazing guy, very smart guy. Went to REC, IIT, MTech, and IIM Kolkata,
Mm-hmm.
but was interested in the mountains, so dedicated his entire life to the mountains. Has amazing records, actually.
Yeah.
Is the fastest guy in the world to summit the seven summits. He's the first Asian to go climb Mount Vinson, the first guy, first Asian to go climb Pankajaya in Indonesia. So many records after his name.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The first guy, I think, to even climb Everest without a Sherpa, and so many other achievements, actually. And
Wow.
one of his goals was to like climb the 10 tallest mountains in South America.
Mm-hmm.
And he climbed like 10, all 10, but then on the 10th one, when he climbed and he was coming back down, he was stuck in a storm and he passed. He died right outside his tent.
God.
Yeah. And the sad thing about India and adventure sports in India, or how much, it's just he's not recognized. And I mean, nobody else is. I think even Arjun Vajpayee, the guy who's done the most number of expeditions, he doesn't have any recognition either. But again, for Malli Mastan Babu, it's more sentimental for me. I want to like finish what he started. I want to see if he can climb the 10 in this year. I just want to dedicate it to him. I don't know if how I could make them to be called like you have seven summits. I want those 10, the challenge of climbing the top 10 in South America to be called as something like an Amali Mastamba challenge or something like that.
That's a
Yeah.
phenomenally good thought, man. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, needs a lot of time and resources. Um, like I said, I'm just gonna go to Kanchenjunga with a leap of faith and see what happens. So yeah, my first mountain is gonna be Kanchenjunga, India's tallest mountain, world's third tallest mountain, and take it from there.
Wow, you have a gorgeous plan ahead, man. I really hope everything comes together and you do all of it as per planned.
Yeah, no, hope so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to, pass on the word, spread the word, all of it, because intentions are great.
Yeah.
You have the ability, so both together must happen. It absolutely must happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope so too. Yeah.
Exciting. So you do call your entire expeditions, you call it Project Spandana, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about why you call it Project Spandana and what are the different elements around the project.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, like when my mom passed away,
Mm-hmm.
it was something that I couldn't share to like my friends because I felt,
Mm-hmm.
some stigma around mental health or like, like around suicide and such. Um, and these things when you don't share, when you suffer through without sharing with other people, it just only gets worse, right?
It does. It
So,
does.
and around my mom's anniversary is when I usually struggled. So I think over the period of time, like I've developed a few techniques to like manipulate that. In the sense, like I would travel to like distract myself. So
Mm-hmm.
during the pandemic, with nowhere to go, I was stuck inside the house, in four walls. I couldn't find an escape, and I had to deal with the thoughts in my head, and I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
process them. My mental health was like off the roof. Like, I was like anxiety.
Wow.
It was pushing me to depression. Like, I couldn't process that out. I couldn't talk to anybody because of the hole I dig myself into. And then I started like questioning life, if it's even worth living.
Mm-hmm.
What would I be living it for? And I also broke my hand a few months prior, and it required two surgeries, and it still wasn't fixed. So even doubted if I could like go back to like climbing, because it was my dominant right hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think like it just keeps building up. Like, when you
Yeah,
don't.
just one or two thoughts will just snowball into
Yes.
uh,
So it just
everything
like
into the
kept
ground.
building up, to the point like I contemplated like suicide, and then that got me scared, and I had to like I had to open up to my friends about what I was going through, and then I seeked help.
Like, really scary, Satish. Very scary, and especially sad that it took you to go all the way till that brink point and then talk to people and ask for help. Gosh, you've gone through tough times.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just because I thought it was more of a weakness. And so my understanding of like mental health was, wasn't, I literally didn't have anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
All I knew that like was my mom struggled through it, and I knew that I
Mm-hmm.
was struggling through it, right? And the way I look at myself is like, I've lived the most fulfilling, happiest life in the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to overcome the things. I was able to process the grief around mom, and then the guilt around, my mom's death and such, right? And I've entered a different phase of life where I was able to
Mm-hmm.
like do these big mountains, right? I think that's one of the messages that I want to send out. And then when I was struggling, so when I climbed Everest and Lhotse, I talked a little bit about these things. I talked a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about like, how I went through a very rough phase during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wasn't, I didn't share anything about like my mom's journey, or like, or even my own personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
I was hinting people that I had a bad phase, right?
Okay.
I came back from Everest and Lhotse. I was in a very high, and a couple months later, I was coming back from a hike on a Sunday, and then I got a phone call from India saying that like my cousin passed away, and that she was struggling through some family issues, and
Mm-hmm.
she thought that I mean, she thought suicide was the only way out. She had a 10-year-old son at that point, or maybe he was 7 back then. I think a couple months prior, I think she passed away in August. And around July 4th, I was in DC. I was like, sharing my story on Everest and Lhotse to an audience. And Sunil Gavaskar happened to be also at that event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was there to raise funds, like, as part of the event, like whatever money he was getting he was going to donate all of that money towards a charity that he cared for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I was having a conversation with him, he said the same thing as to like, use your platform as to, mix your adventure with something else, was the
Mm-hmm.
message that came across to me. And yeah, I mean, I was going through a flux after Everest and Lhotse, because Everest and Lhotse for me was very easy. And I was like, oh, it was very easy, my limits, because it's the tallest mountain, right? Not only was it the tallest mountain, I was also able to like climb the fourth tallest mountain next to it
Back
within
to
2 years.
back, yeah.
And I felt like I had a lot in my tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty good feeling, right? And then there was always there's this curiosity that like, oh, dude, I mean, you can do more, like, but what is more is the question.
Mm-hmm.
And why, I'm not a professional athlete. If I were to climb, like, what am I climbing for? Right? I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed the process of like being on the mountain. I enjoyed the scenery.
Right.
I enjoyed the expedition. But what am I doing it for? Right? That always like was weighing on me. So I
Mm.
think like when he said like do it for see if you can like make it more meaningful. It kind of like remained in my head,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think when my cousin passed away, I went through the same emotions again as to like, maybe had I talked to her, or had I been more vocal about my own mental health journey.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it might have helped her, it might not have helped her, right? But I thought, like, I could have at least made a difference. So I think that was the resolve for me, as in, like, when I want to like go back into adventuring again, I want to do it in the name of Project Spandana. So when I go back and do it, I want to talk about like my own mental health journey, as in, like, good things are possible. Like, we all go through the phases of trauma. I mean, or pain or suffering, but then there are tools available
Yes.
or people available who can help you to overcome those. And once you like see the other side of things, right? I mean, I say the same thing. Like, people ask me, like, was it hard? Like, I don't think it was hard for me, and I don't know. I mean, some say, dude, it was the ultimate challenge, and I get it, all that, right? But I say, like, for me, the hardest part was like processing the feelings that I had of like committing suicide, and overcoming that was probably, or even to like travel all the way to India after hearing the news that my mom passed away. Once you overcome that pain and then that suffering, and then once you overcome your own mental health struggles, when you come on the other side, everything seems possible, right? I always, like I say, like I even on days today too, sometimes I feel like low and such. I always, but I knew that, like, it's just a momentary thing. I have to just make positive steps. I need to like go out and work towards it, and I'll be okay on the other side. That's something that you learn in your endurance journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where the whole idea of Project Spandana started for me, in the sense, like, when I go outside into the mountains, it's just an opportunity for me to like, use my adventure as a platform to share my mental health journey. And then, just tell people that, it's completely okay to go seek help.
Yes.
Like, my friends always know about me as somebody who lives his life to the max, right? I mean, they see me like running marathons across the world. They see me climbing the biggest of the mountains. They see me traveling to
Yes.
50 other countries, and all these, like, when they talk about me, they talk about me as an, traveler. They talk about,
Achiever.
yeah, which I am, right? But then, like,
Yes.
they also don't know that I could be all that and also be a person who struggled through mental health, right? Because most times when you look at people, like, I think the biggest example would be Robin Williams.
Yes. Oh my God. Everyone cried.
Yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
cried.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
so that's it. Like, we all show what we want to show, and so I just want to like be more vocal about, like, as vocal as I'm about like my adventuring. I also want to include the mental health aspect of it into my adventures. So, like, to normalize it, right? I know that I've inspired a few people, like, with running. I've helped a few people to like go from like not running to like run half marathons, full marathons. So I know
Yeah.
that I can make a difference, right? So I just like by being more vocal about my own mental health journey, and like, what I was able to achieve when I came on the other side of things. I hope that motivates somebody to like go seek help. One of the things is also, like, I want everybody to understand that I can list the number of things I've done which are crazy, even for mountaineering world. I've climbed the south face of Annapurna with snow blindness without my glasses on. I
Wow.
climbed the most dangerous face of all the 8,000-meter mountains without my glasses, right?
You challenged yourself.
People were shit scared. Like, I think on that day there were like 8 or 9 rescues because people didn't want to climb down that mountain. So I am nothing close to, I'm not a weak person. But even then, the thoughts of like committing suicide and such came to me. So it could happen to anybody. So I think I just want to, like, the message out there is to, like, just to make sure that, like, you or your loved ones, right, when they are suffering through it, it's something that needs attention. And there's no, you're brave to like seek help than to like avoid.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a message, right? So Project Spandana, I think I want to do more about it. I want this to be a topic that's like constantly, be spoken about. So that's where I eventually want to kind of get that to. And I also want to recruit like more of my friends who do. I have a lot of my friends who do like 100-mile marathons, or even climbing in different parts of the world and such like that, right? Or even collaborate with some other retail outlets and see if I can spread that message out. I think that's the route I want to take Project Spandana tomorrow. But then today, where it stands is like, Project Spandana is all about like, just sharing about like my own mental health journey, and then saying that it's okay to seek help. There is no shame. I feel like when we share our mental health journeys, the discussion around mental health will also normalize, and everybody will feel free to like share more of their journeys, and that's what I want to happen eventually.
Oh, I think you're a wonderful human being to have such a noble thought, strong thought. It's you've gone through a really, really tough phase personally, in your family, all of it. Hope that you are in a happy place now.
Oh no,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
that's just wonderful. And definitely, mental health is, it's a part of your body. So if conversations around, I have a flu and that's so normal,
Yeah.
similarly mental health should be as normal as that.
Absolutely.
Resources should be affordable around it.
Yeah.
Finding it also should be easy. So I 100% support, and would love to see your project doing really well, because it's a very special message that you are sending out. So Satish, really, I kudos to you, man. It's a very, very noble cause, very noble thought.
No, yeah, no. Idea is one thing and implementing is another thing. I hope
it will happen.
Yeah, I hope I find the time, resources, and everything else to make it happen. But that's the goal, right? Eventually, when I want to leave a legacy, that's the legacy I want to leave as an adventurer. The Spandana, the word to be synonymous with mental health.
Yep.
I just need to make it happen one way or the other way.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It's very emotional. I really teared up a couple of times myself. I really hope,
Yeah. So when you ask me, what was driving me every day, just these things,
yes,
I was doing it for a cause, and I want, I don't even want somebody to say, oh, he failed in that expedition because maybe he's weak. I just want to portray that, I'm strong. Even then, I struggle through mental health issues.
Mental health.
So yeah, I think that's the message I want to keep sending out, as it could happen to anybody, and most times we can come out of it. If we can overcome those, know how to overcome those, we'll be more successful in life.
Yes.
Live more fully.
Yeah. And other things will seem easier, like how you're saying, absolutely. Everest and Lhotse seemed so much easier compared to the bunch of things that you've gone through. So
yeah. No, my friends keep saying the same thing. They're like, dude, I mean, when somebody asks you, how was Antarctica, just dramatize it, man. I'm like, no.
Yeah, now, I'm getting the feeling that maybe even I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they keep saying. Because everybody else who did it had some issues. They either broken something or they had some frostbite issues or something, And I think there was a guy who was reporting it. Explorers Web, they usually track a lot of these expeditions. So I think the guy wrote, it was mostly uneventful. He didn't have any injuries or no equipment failure.
It's a good place to be, but dude, it was a different kind of eventful.
It's a good place to be in, but not so good for social media, because social media likes drama. They say, had anyone spread the news out that you fell into a crevasse, you probably would have gained 100,000 followers next day.
The journey of coming out of it and all of it. Oh my God. I know. Yeah. Always, like a hero kind of thing always works more than a hunky-dory trip.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh man, you've seen challenges in life. I really hope every expedition that you do is uneventful in that way. But personally, absolutely. For you, all forms of solid, good challenges.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
I had a really, really nice time talking to you, Satish. I'm so happy that, that you could take a time and come on the podcast and speak so generously about all your, stories, about this entire Project Spandana, your entire trip, your entire training, your growing up time, all of it together. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and then having the time to ask me all these questions and listening to them.
It's a privilege for me, Satish, listening to stories of such an achiever.
I'm glad.
Yes. Thank you so much, Satish. You did get me emotional multiple times, but I'm very happy that you are doing well, and I hope you stay that way.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye, Satish. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Besides being an episode full of inspirational and fun experiences, I felt it was a very wholesome conversation that I had with Satish. And Satish, we wish you the very best for all your future endeavors and adventures. Listeners, you can follow Satish Gogineni on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll link up his socials in our show notes. Also, we've recently launched a travel journal, a journal that is perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking in little memorabilia. Pick one for yourself or gift it to your friend or to a kid. It'll be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find the link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.